It looks like we are live. Betsy there?
I'm here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey everybody, welcome in. I'm Chip and I'm with Stomp Software. And today I'm super excited to introduce you guys, if you don't know her, to my good friend Betsy. Betsy Lackey is an Austin, Texas-based photographer and just all-around rad person. And she was kind enough earlier in this month to take the Stomp Software Instagram account on a destination wedding with her to Wyoming. Yeah. Is that right? And so it was fun to follow along. And of course, she had some other travels in and around that time too, which you know, when you're a rock star, I guess that's what you do. But anyway, Betsy's with us today, and we're gonna talk about some fun stuff. So, Betsy, if you don't mind, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Betsy Lackey is my name. I'm a photographer, wedding photographer. I started my business in 2009. Went full-time and just kind of like jump-started it and ran with it, not knowing what I was doing. And which I think is the way a lot of people start businesses. So yeah, sometimes I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but I love it and I'm still going. So that's kind of the gist of photo, guess.
That's awesome. If it's okay, I'd like to give kind of everybody a brief history of how I came to know you and become a part of the Betsy Lackey fan club. Betsy and we met a couple of years ago at a thirst relief event, and it's funny because there's always that notion of like, oh, you're from New York. Well, do you know Brandon? You know, or you know, whatever. Oh, you went to Texas A&M. Do you know Jack? But even though we live in this massive state of Texas and we don't live in the same city, we had the good fortune over the next couple of years of just kind of bumping into each other randomly at whether it's music events or just kind of, you know, fun photography things or through mutual friends. And so anyway, it was fun to get to know you that way. And it's funny, I have to confess a little bit of a story. So before I met you, some friends of mine that knew you were like, oh yeah, you got to meet Betsy. And the next words out of her mouth were some of my favorite, like, she's a photographer. And I have to confess to being a horrible person. And here's what I mean. Sometimes like I hear the words, oh, he's a photographer, she's a photographer. And my immediate reaction is, awesome, isn't everybody, you know? And but then got to meet you and like, oh, well, she's cool too. I'll go look at her work. And like, my gosh, dude, my heart just melted. I love your photography work. And then I felt super bad because of my super bad attitude before we met. I'm like, dude, I shouldn't have even thought that way. But anyway, that's on me. So one of the things that jumped out to me pretty immediately about you is you're like this intensely likable person. At least that's my perception. And so it seems that it doesn't take you a whole lot of effort to make new friends. Is that kind of roughly, you know, somewhat accurate?
I think I'm just sort of the all embracing, like, I'll take you, let's go, let's do whatever, like, who are you? There's truth in that a little bit.
Well, so one of the, oh, sorry, I missed you. Say that again.
Uh-oh, am I cutting out? I was just saying I do have my close circles for sure, but yeah, for the most part, I am kind of like bouncing around wanting to know everybody. So yeah, sure.
Well, so it was, what was interesting to me was around the same time that I was getting to know you personally, I was also getting to know your work. And so it struck me very early on that the way I kind of felt immediately drawn to you just as a friend on a personal level, it seemed that your clients, every single one of them had that same kind of friend connection to you. And a part of me, like kind of maybe before I got to know you better, was like, oh, okay, she's a 20-something Austin photographer and she photographs all her friends' weddings. And it took a little while for me to realize, no, that's actually not the case. I mean, she may have shot some of her friends' weddings, but it really is that she builds this actual authentic relationship with the clients that she works with. And when people choose Betsy to be a part of their wedding day and tell their story through photos, it's like, it's not just the beginning of a business relationship, but it's something much deeper. Is that kind of how you see it? Is that intentional on your part?
Yeah, for the most part. I think saying like a close relationship with my couples isn't always the case, but definitely like a personal relationship. Not like I don't go into every like wedding meeting my couple and thinking I'm going to be best friends with them, and by the end of this, like we're all going to be best friends and hang out all the time outside of this. But I do go in wanting to connect with somebody. I feel like sometimes it happens over the entire process, like their engagement process, or even sometimes just on a wedding day. I can give you kind of a little example.
Yeah, do it.
The difference between like a close relationship with my couples and a personal relationship with my couples. When shooting like a destination wedding like this Jackson Hole wedding, I didn't really know my couple too well. Like they didn't live in Austin. I don't hang out with them all the time. It was just it was a connection to a bride in the past. So I was looking to connect with them somehow. And so listening, I think, is a big part of connection instead of a close connection. So like even on rehearsal day, I was just like finding out things about them that I could connect with them on the next day. So it's like needing to be like best friends with them and more about trying to listen to them and figure out who they are and how they tick and what makes them move and all that stuff. So yeah, I feel like there's that to me with every couple for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So have you, I mean, it seems that's the way you approach kind of all of your couples. Have you ever had a couple that seemed resistant to it, that didn't really want to kind of like let you in?
Maybe a few. I'm not too like, I don't pry in immediately and I'm like, tell me your life story so I can connect with you, so I can like photograph you well. Most of the time it's just natural and I let it like come as it comes. But yeah, sometimes there's a resisting, and usually those couples like, this sounds harsh, but should have hired someone else. Like maybe they're more into kind of the spectacle of the party of the wedding day and less about like, it sounds so horrible. Just more about like the stuff of the wedding day than like connecting me. Like that sounds so bad.
No, it's interesting that you say that, and I feel like I've had a similar experience a time or two where what I value or what I feel like I'm there to do on a wedding day is celebrate someone's marriage. But it seems that maybe clients have found me who are more about showing off the spectacle of everything, all the decor, and just how cool or edgy or whatever they were. I feel that I would, yeah. I
don't think that's a bad thing. And what I'm saying is kind of like if they're more like, or they care more about like the aspect of the day and the spectacle of the thing, I guess. Like I have some photographer friends that are just amazing at details and they like shine when it comes to like up a wedding day or like a big party. And I think some couples are so drawn to that because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm all about that. And then they hire those people. So usually when those people hire me, they're confused as to why I want to connect with them personally. They're like, you're just here to like photograph my tablescapes, like
yeah.
Sometimes I like hit that resistance, but it's after, I mean, I guess for sure, I think it's been like 9 years. I think after like 9 years of, and on like the kind of couple I know that I'll connect with, I usually get the sappy emotional people emailing me saying like, will you shoot my wedding? Like I cried when I looked at your website. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know why you cried, but like, you're my people. Like, if you're emotional and like wedding, cool, I'm there. Like,
okay. So 9 years into this, do you feel like this is kind of always the way you've structured your approach to your clients, your approach to your business, or was it like something that you've developed in stages kind of over the course of your career?
I think I've always, like, my life has always been like that, like very like, I mean, I'm the person that like the floor at airports and I'm just like studying people, like watching everybody, and I'm like making up stories in my mind about like who they are, and like I just want to know everybody. And so I think I've always had that something in me that's like, I need to know everybody. I want personal, like, kind of. But as far as like business goes, I think like the first few years I was like, oh, how do people do this? I gotta pose, and I gotta like do things this way. And so actually I have a good story. And it's not like crazy, but I was photographing a couple, it's probably like 2010 or something. And I remember going, I hadn't been doing it too long, and I was thinking, okay, like we're gonna take them to this wall, and I'm gonna do this pose, this pose, this pose, and it's just like, in my mind, I was like being really mechanical about it. Like, how am I gonna pose these couples or this couple? Like, I wish I could like show you, but I told and don't make fun of me, but I told the girl to like run and like jump up in his arms. And I didn't describe it well, and I don't know what I was doing, but I was like, yeah, just like run up and jump in his arms. Ran toward him, and instead of her just like throwing her arms around him and like hugging him and him picking her up, like a baby, like under the armpits, like she ran up and it just like it was hilarious, but it was like they didn't laugh. They were just like, what are we supposed to do? Like they were so confused and almost like awkward it was. And I was understanding because I was like, this is awkward. Like, but it was in that moment where it wasn't like, I didn't fault him for it. I was like, that's not your fault for like not knowing how to pick her up. You've never done that with her before. Like, so it was in that moment that I was like, okay, to know my couples in order to know how they react or like react with each other, whatever, interact with each other, like let them be themselves in front of the camera. So that was kind of pivotal for me because I was like, wow, no, I don't just have like a list of things that I make my couples do. And like sometimes it's still, I'll do something, I'm like, oh, that's totally not you guys, let's change it and like do this or something. But from that moment on, for that engagement session, I was like, oh, these two are gonna like swing around kind of people. They're like, let's sit next to each other on a park bench and like play word games and laugh at each other. And then like, so it's kind of like, I don't know, like that was pivotal for me because you have to, I feel like I learned that I needed to know my couples before I way instead of the other way around, like needing to know how to photograph someone and then getting to know them. So anyway.
Sure.
I don't know if
okay. No, I love that. And it's funny as you're talking, I'm like, huh, well, I'm trying to think if I was in the situation, if I wanted the girl to jump in the guy's arms, I'd probably just like go jump in the guy's arms, but not, I mean, not fully, but like here, just go like this, you know, and kind of, anyway. Well, okay. So let me ask you this then. In the lifestyle, or the life cycle of a wedding, bride and groom, wedding photographer relationship is a long one. It's extended. It's months and months, sometimes years. And there's often the initial like point of contact or face-to-face meeting, whether it's at a bridal show or through friends or through a website contact form. Then there might be a face-to-face or a phone consultation, and then there's all the working out of the contract, and then maybe a couple months later there's the engagement session. From the first meeting where you really kind of click with a client till the first time you have a camera in your hands in front of them, sometimes a lot of time has passed, and other elements like the business elements of what we do comes in the middle there. Are there specific steps that you take, or is there any kind of advice you would give to someone who's having trouble with that connecting with a bride and groom of things they could do to build that connection?
Are you talking about, are you saying if they, okay, are you saying like if they don't talk or if they're not off or throughout the process, well, and then they're faced to connect?
Like if I get to a photo session and I haven't talked to this bride and groom in the 2 months since they booked me, and I go to pull a camera up, it might be super awkward for a minute there, you know? So like, are there anything in particular that you do as you prepare for either the engagement session or the wedding day to kind of help to maintain the relationship and that sort of thing, but build that connectivity?
I'll say a couple of small things that I do. I don't know exactly, I don't know my couples in and out all the time. Like actually probably more often than not, I don't know them super well. I just know like, well, I mean, it depends. But before an engagement shoot, like I might email my couple and say, we might be talking a little bit about like what to wear and like where to meet and everything. But I might be like, you know, I never book anything else on the day that I have an engagement session ever. And some people are like, what? But I just don't, because I'm in my own head on an engagement session day and I just need to like focus, and I go like 2 hours early and like, hey, do you want to grab a drink for an hour before, loosen up before we go? And more often than not, they're like, yeah, like, and usually they're late anyway because they've been stressed about, you know, clothes together and everything. So yeah, we'll have time to chat before an engagement session. That usually kind of calms them down a little bit. Kind of my least favorite spots first because they're usually warming up a little bit. And I always say this to them, like being in front of the camera, like this is uncomfortable for me. I mean, I'm comfortable with you, Chip, always, you're the best. But like cameras in my face, my face is just like, my shoulders just get higher and higher, and I'm like, like, what do I do with my hands? Like, always tell my couples, like, I hate being in front of the camera. So I completely understand like the feeling of like, what do I do? Do I smile? Am I serious? Like, you know, if I'm not saying anything, it means you're doing a great job. Relax. Pretty much you just get to make out with each other all day. Like, and I'm just here. Like,
that's awesome.
And so I think that's a little bit because they're like, oh, you get the way that I'm feeling. And that's kind of part of that connection too. Like, I don't think that, like, if they understand that I get that it's weird sometimes, like, at least at the beginning, comfortable enough to just like be themselves, and there's usually a switch on an engagement session where they're just like all about each other. So actually,
yeah,
my last, sorry,
I'm
talking way too much, but like on the last engagement session I shot, actually I don't even know if they're here. I doubt they're here, but Andrew and Becca, they're just so sweet, and they weren't nervous at all. It was fine. Like it was going smoothly. Like something clicked where they just were like into each other. Like I don't know what happened, but they were just like suddenly like, this is the best, and like we've had an hour to just like play and like hang out together. They were just hugging all over each other, holding each other, like whispering to each other, like laughing. And then I just like and I started walking backwards, and I just put my camera down. Like I got a few photos of them like being sweet, but then I was like, whatever, I'll just let them like make out for a little while. I like walked so far away, and then they looked up and they were like, I'm over here. Like, sometimes something just happens where they can relax a little bit. But I would definitely tell them that like you understand how they're feeling as far as like having a camera in your face. So.
It's really cool. It sounds like what you did was you created an environment for them on their photo shoot that didn't feel like a photo shoot. It just felt like the three of you guys hanging out, or even just the two of them hanging out.
That's the goal for sure. Yeah.
So when I'm going to ask a question. I think the answer is obviously no, but I wanted to kind of prompt. I want to know your response to it. When you meet with a potential client for the first time, whether it's or even just in the email process or you know the face-to-face, the over the phone. You mentioned a minute ago that sometimes it's, oh my God, I was in tears looking at your website. Will you please be my photographer? It's not always like that, I would imagine. So is there a point at which you just come out and say,
right.
and by the way, I'm going to be your best friend? Like, do you give them that heads up? Like, we're going to know everything about each other, and we're going to watch How I Met Your Mother and eat popcorn in my living room at some point. Like how do you give them a heads up, or do you just kind of like, are you the kind that just feels the situation out until you get a good sense of what's going on?
Other than that, I feel it out, and I actually that they might cry in front of me, like, yeah. Or you know, like, or I might ask a serious question that they don't have to answer. Yeah, more often than not, it's gradual. Sometimes, yeah, you're right. Like, I'll get the email that's like in the middle of nowhere with the mountains and friends, and I'm going to dance for 5 hours with Whitney Houston and I'm obsessed with Harry Potter. And I'll be like, okay, we are going to be best friends. And like, and I'm going to get close to you and I'll say it, you know, but it's kind of like a gradual thing. I hope that when people look at my website or my work, they'll see those people in the images as known, like they know each other and like are comfortable with me, that's something that they want too. So emailing me, they understand that I want to get to know them. So
yeah,
I don't know if that answers your question.
Interesting. I think that almost speaks to kind of a core desire of you know, being known personally.
Yeah. It truly just depends on my couple.
Sure.
If they are, and if I'm going to be like best friends with them.
So we've had the good fortune of having kind of some client relationships turn into friendships over the years. I'm curious with you, do you typically keep up that friend relationship after the wedding, and do you keep up with your clients? Do you have specific like practices of reaching out, you know, to them over time, or like you know, obviously you see some at later weddings if their friends are getting married and that sort of thing.
I mean, I like to keep up with my couples a bit, and I think social media makes that easy. Like you just kind of see where they are in life, or oh, they're pregnant, or you know, they moved to Minnesota. I don't know, but it kind of goes back to like the natural thing. Like sometimes we actually shot a wedding with me. Like I hardly knew the bride. Like I knew of her. She was a friend of a friend, but we like kept in touch and became friends throughout the whole process and after, and it just was like natural that like of course we're going to keep up the rest of our lives. Like it was like that of a connection. So sometimes, I mean, like social media connections for sure, but I don't that close relationship or personal relationships with these people, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to be that I have to like be best friends with them forever.
Sure.
And I don't know if you'll get into this, but I think there is an importance of like separating the friendship and business side thing too.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a balance, right? I mean, honestly, our clients, if they want to include us in later parts of their life, man, I try to welcome that as much as possible. You know, at the same time, frankly, we've also had former clients that decided, hey, that photography looked like fun. I'm going to start a photography business. And then they'll reach out like more like, so what do you do about your online gallery? I'm like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm like, you know.
Yeah. I really haven't had that.
Maybe have you not? No, I mean, I like to help people, but it's you know, it's one of those like, oh, that dynamic just changed dramatically. Anyway, what would you say, if there are any, what would you say are the downside or the risks of having this sort of like, I feel like the conventional business wisdom would be keep your customers at arm's length and, you know, show up, do your job, get the money and deliver the product and move on. Which I feel like my attitude towards my clients is very similar to yours. I'd rather be a part of their life because I'm telling the story of a very intensely intimate day of their life, you know? So have you found any like downsides or any risks or things that you're just careful of as you kind of run your business the way you do?
For sure. Yeah, it does get hairy because if you are as a photographer is to shoot emotion, which is mine. So, and when you mix emotional and it doesn't work. So I think I can kind of give a vague example. I mean, I can give you tiny examples too, but actually in Vegas, okay, I don't know who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to photographers, you'll understand. But I've gotten probably, I mean, a handful, probably less than a handful of like mean emails. One when I was hanging out with you in Vegas, and it was heartbreaking. This couple, like, I felt like I was friends with her. Like, it was so weird, and it was just shocking to hear it. But she kind of had expectations, work or my social media or something, that she was going to be best friends with me. Like, that, like, I don't know. I think she expected more. I don't know. So yeah, okay. Sometimes it can open a door for people to hurt you, personally. Like, it wasn't necessarily, she wasn't trying to, like, she wasn't just expressing business concerns. It was like pretty personal. And so that's where you have to be a little cautious, because you can't just be like buddy with everyone and then still have boundaries with your business. And that was my mistake. And so my response to her was, you know, I apologize for, you know, what she was upset about, but I also recognized that I didn't set appropriate boundaries. I didn't give her expectations for things. So this is probably so vague that everyone's like, what? But there are definitely, you still have to have boundaries for sure. And I mean, even like on a you kind of have to have the attitude of like I really do want to party and I want to be there and like be buddies with everyone. So I might be like hanging out with mom and like loving with her. And then like halfway through the day, she like feels that she can just around or like tell me to do whatever when I have other jobs to do. It's not that like, I mean, I have things to do and I know how to, but when you have someone like barking at you, that might change how you photograph a wedding day. And so, yeah, you do have to like be buddy with mom, but also like have your boundary. I don't know. Am I making any sense?
No,
like,
you definitely are.
There are definitely risks. I would rather photograph a couple with me and they're able to be their true selves and then get a mean email for some reason. Disconnected, emotionless, empty photos and not have mom. Like, I think I just have to let those certain things roll to me.
Yeah. It seems that it might be well, it seems that it might be really important all throughout the process leading up to the wedding day to maybe even candidly talk about that with your client. Like, hey, look, you know, I'm not going to be the aloof wedding photographer that stands over here in this corner. I'm going to kind of be really, you know, involved, close by what's going on. So the benefit is I'll seem like an old friend with a nice camera, but the risk is that I'll seem like an old friend when I'm there to do a job. My job is very important. It's almost like you almost have to make that acknowledgement, you know,
yeah,
just to kind of keep all the expectations where they need to be, right?
Right. The happy medium is that these people, but they respect what you do and they trust you. I think trust is huge when it comes to all of this. Like, somebody, but they trust that you're doing your job and you know what you're doing. I mean, they can request things or express what they want on a wedding day or some things that they loved about, you know, why they hired me. But I'm totally fine with that. But trust is so important, because if it's not there, then I will feel paralyzed. Like I have to do something to trust me. And like, there's definitely a line, and it changes with every couple or wedding that I shoot, for sure.
Sure. Well, we've talked a lot about your clients and the emotion in your images and the connection with the brides and grooms. Just so we can give people a direction to go after this presentation's over, would you mind sharing kind of your website, your social media stuff? Where can folks find you on the interwebs?
Right now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right now? Okay. Wait, what?
Yes.
Share my social media stuff now?
Yeah.
Cool. I think my Wi-Fi is like in and out right now. Yeah, you can find me or my business name is Photo by Betsy. My website is photobybetsy.com. Gram is at Photo by Betsy. Seems pretty simple. I do have a personal, there's a line. I have a personal Instagram and a business Instagram.
There you go.
So yeah, that's it, really. I'm on Facebook too. I'm everywhere, Twitter, whatever.
So awesome. So guys, definitely check out Betsy's work. It's really, you'll get a picture of I've kind of gushed about Betsy's work, both the emotional elements and just the artistic elements, but you'll see where I'm coming from when you look at it. Last question, Betsy, before we call this thing a day. What is your wedding hangover routine? What's your recuperation, your rejuvenation process after, let's say, a long 3 days in Jackson Hole?
Yes. I usually always have a couple of days after wherever I am to hang out. Camping with my dad, Yellowstone, which was awesome. But like on a local, I have to wash my feet when I get home. So if I'm so exhausted, feet and go to bed. But if I'm like, that was a great wedding day, I'll take a bath and watch X-Files for like 3 hours. As far as the next day goes, I'm like, I'm just dead. I'll just like, I don't know, binge watch something, get a late brunch, have a day. Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had like
Nice.
thought of what I would do the X-Files immediately after.
My wife would be, in sharing that same sentiment after a wedding. She likes a hot bath and she loves the X-Files. So
bath
Jen's right there with you. What's that?
Those bath bombs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, Betsy, sorry, you cut out. What'd you say?
I said I should start giving all my couples bath bombs for after their wedding.
Jackpot. I think you just found the next era of Photo by Betsy. Betsy, it's been a pleasure talking with you, as it always is. But I wanted to say thanks for your time today. Thanks for chatting with us and for your expertise and for taking us along on your trip earlier this month. Guys and gals, find Betsy at photobybetsy.com and at photobybetsy on Instagram and various other social media channels and platforms. And with that, I think we're going to call this one closed. So thanks again, Bets.
Thanks for having me, Chip.
Next time we're out in Central Texas, we'll give you a shout. We'll grab a coffee or something.
Please do. Or Vegas. You never.
Or Vegas. Vegas works too. All right. Talk to you soon.
See ya.